This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Did they just say that? I don't know if history will necessarily look back at this moment as being particularly meaningful in the grand scheme of things. The impact of Sony doing away with physical media won't really be felt until it happens in 2028, and then Xbox parting ways with a bunch of studios, firing a bunch of employees. That's just normal. That's just straight up normal behavior for Xbox. And then of course, this is just two pieces of the greater puzzle. Just two little strokes in the chapel-spanning masterpiece that is the game industry implodes in slow motion, oil on canvas. But personally speaking, it feels like a much bigger shift than usual is taking place. Again, the greater industry has its greater problems. We could talk about that all day, but in particular, when it comes to the Sony-Microsoft dynamic, it feels like we just stepped into a very new era for these companies. A painting is made of so many individual strokes, and yet sometimes you can put in just a few really big, strong strokes that really help fill in that picture more than the rest. Let's start with Xbox. Making poor decisions is not a new thing for Xbox. They've been making almost nothing but poor decisions for almost 2 entire generations now. One of their only decisions that seemed good at first, Game Pass, has ended up biting them in the tuchus by only feeding into an ever-growing hesitance among players to purchase new games. It made them a bunch of money and made the shareholders very happy at first, but the damage it's done to the brand and its games is incalculable. And beyond Game Pass, it's just been blunder after blunder after blunder. They cannot make an award-winning hit game to save their lives. And companies frequently react to failures with layoffs and studio closures and all that. So again, what they're doing now should not be surprising, and yet, right now, Xbox is exhibiting a level of short-sightedness and raw desperation that, to me, feels unprecedented. Corporate short-sightedness and greed and all that is one thing, but right now, Xbox feels like a dying animal. It feels like an animal that is in the throes of death itself. Before we continue talking about, all that, a brief reminder that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. If you need a website, but you've never made a website in your life, you have no idea where to even get started, Squarespace has got your back. Squarespace's intuitive builder lets you build a website basically however you want, absolutely zero coding knowledge required. You want to make it super simple, they've got a whole bunch of templates you can start with, you pick one, you start plugging in your own stuff, and before you know it, you've got a super slick looking website. Real nice and professional. Squarespace is great for casual stuff, personal websites, blogs, that kind of thing, but you can just as easily make a really nice professional looking page for your business. My site, Arlo Recommends, is a simple blog, so putting it together was easy and creating content for it is easy. I draft up my posts, format my text, embed pictures and videos and whatever I want, schedule it to automatically post whenever I want. It'll even automatically generate social media posts for those posts, and boom, I'm done. I just sit back and watch the analytics to see how many of them sweet clicks I'm getting. And if I ever need more for my site, I know Squarespace offers lots of powerful extensions. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now for today's recommendation, apples and peanut butter. I don't know, recently I've just been on this huge apples and peanut butter kick. It's so good. Healthy carbs, good fats, it's filling, it's delicious. Thanks again to Squarespace. Now to get back to, please forgive me for very clumsily trying to bring in psychology here. I'm not a psychologist, and I don't know if there's any specific terminology I could be using here. I don't know if this is associated with any one sort of mental condition. It's just something that I've kind of observed about mindsets. So I'm just gonna bring in analogies from my own life. The times when I have been the most in control of my life and my emotions have been times when I'm taking the middle road. My experiences and emotions and actions and decisions are not marked by extreme highs or lows, peaks or valleys. I'm taking a moderate approach. But then I think back to when I was a kid and I was doing some sort of jogathon or something. I had to see how many laps I could do, how many times I could go around the parking lot or something. And I was so eager to do as many laps as possible that I just ran like crazy. I just sprinted and I completely burned myself out. So then I'm just like crawling. I can't get anywhere because now I'm too tired. But then I get really frustrated about how poorly I'm doing, so then I start sprinting again. And I just keep alternating back and forth between these two states because it's like the only motivating factor in my brain is frustration. Is the frustration, the crazy drive to do really well, making me go really fast and then going really slow because I have exhausted myself. I ended up doing very, very poorly, and all the other kids who just jogged in a kind of a middle speed, they did way better than me. The same has been true for diet and exercise. Oh, I'm so motivated to eat better, so I'm gonna cut out every single bad thing possible, and I'm gonna hit the gym, and I'm gonna work out like absolute crazy all day, every day, and then I'm gonna get so sick of the healthy food, and I so miss having just like a cookie or something every once in a while, or I'm so exhausted from the gym, and I'm so sore, I burn myself out, and I hate working out, and I never wanna do it ever again. Again, bouncing back and forth. I am being driven by desperation in all cases, rather than just having the patience to just do the right thing one step at a time. Take a moderate approach. Phil Spencer saw that Xbox had a really, really big problem. No one was buying Xbox Ones, and it was largely because there was no reason to buy one. There were no games to play on it. There were no original, exclusive Xbox games to play. So what does Xbox do at that time? They buy up tons and tons and tons of studios. Just buy everybody and start work on all of these different Xbox games. Okay, not necessarily a bad decision in a vacuum, but then they let these studios do whatever they want. Just kind of whatever they want. Every studio is being pressured to please their new parent company by creating a new live service game, or they're spending years and years and years making these grand creative projects that just do not have the appeal to match their budgets. Giving a studio creative freedom to do what they want is a great thing in its own way, but you still have to be reasonable. You still have to keep budgets in check. You still have to consider what the appeal of a game is and how much time and money you should be spending on it. Xbox needed to manage these studios and have an idea, have like a roadmap of what they should be doing and where they should be going, and they just didn't because they were so motivated to fix the exclusive game problem that they just kind of went nuts. Spend all this money and then just whatever happens, happens. Laura Fryer actually has a really, really excellent video on this very, very topic. Please go check it out. But basically, Xbox was too loosey-goosey, and they ended up taking a whole long time to produce a whole lot of games, very few of which actually made them any money, especially thanks to their Game Pass model. So then Phil Spencer leaves and Asha Sharma comes in, and what does she do? Does she say, hey, maybe that was too wild of a swing. Maybe you had like the bones of a good idea, you just needed to execute it a bit better. You needed to be a bit more reasonable, a bit moderate with your thinking and your decision making. No, she doesn't say any of that. She comes in and she says, what we need to do is swing the exact opposite way, even harder. We spent all of this money on these studios. We spent all of this time fostering this creative talent. Now we have all of these studios who are ready to make games, but instead of just being reasonable, instead of just jogging, instead of just hitting the gym maybe 3 times in a week, maybe allowing yourself just like a cookie or something here and there. Nah, we need to cancel a bunch of big projects. We need to say goodbye to a whole bunch of studios. I mean, we're lucky they didn't just shutter all of them. That's at least good. A lot of these studios are now returning to being independent studios. Okay, fine, but the point is, they're leaving Xbox. All of that time and money investment down the drain simply because it looks good to shareholders to save money in the immediate. Because when you're the new CEO, it makes it look like you really know what you're doing when you make these giant, humongous decisions. When you fire so many people that everyone will just have to assume that you know what you're doing. That's what you gotta do. You gotta drop the dead weight, cut off the chaff or whatever. And I see a lot of people arguing that like, oh, well, it's because they overhired during the pandemic, and this is just them returning to a much more reasonable headcount. Okay, maybe some aspect of that is true. Here's the thing though, they're not just firing extra unnecessary people. We are getting reports from inside of these studios saying that Microsoft is firing even like key lead developers, people with decades of experience, people who were integral to their respective studios are being laid off. Asha Sharma's like, forget everything. Right now, our whole entire focus is on Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Halo, all that stuff. She's talking about how they're gonna fast track these games, which is already pretty ridiculous. I mean, like, I do understand the frustration. I understand her being frustrated coming in and just being like, why is it taking so long? Where is the next Fallout game? Where is the next Elder Scrolls? I can't blame her for being upset because, obviously, Xbox has mishandled all of their properties in their studios. That's part of the problem. But to say, we're gonna focus on these properties and we're gonna fast track these games. Also, we're firing a bunch of the key developers working on them right now. That is genuinely unhinged. It is absolute craziness. That is scrapping your whole car because it has a flat tire. Like, even from the crazy, evil corporate standpoint, that is something else. I don't know if it's possible for Xbox to actually die, just like outright die completely. But if not, then I think the two worst case scenarios are they do have to kind of spin off, kind of be sold or spin off into their own whole separate thing from Microsoft, and or they really do just narrow down their entire business to this like handful of IPs. It's Halo, it's maybe Gears, it's Elder Scrolls, Fallout, a couple others, Forza, Doom, just those handful of properties, and that's basically all they do. And in a case like that, it could work. It could absolutely work. It's just that at that point, they basically just become a publishing company for these properties. And in either case, that is Xbox ceasing to exist as the platform that it is now, and certainly ceasing to exist as a real competitor for Sony. Just based on what Xbox is doing, what Xbox leadership is doing right now, I can't see a future where they continue to exist the way they have been doing. Again, this behavior is just absolutely unhinged. Like, how can you fire these key veteran developers that have been carrying your studios while investing heavily in a technology, the entire purpose of which is to completely cut out the entry level? We're firing all the old timers and we're not even bringing on anyone new. What is your long-term plan here? And you know what really did it? You know what really sealed the deal in my mind? It's all of these firings. Yeah, so Xbox already fired like 1,600 people. I mean, just like during this round, and they have announced ahead of time that they're gonna fire another 1,600 over the next year. So the threat of being laid off is now just hanging over everybody at Xbox. Even in the corporate world, where you gotta fire everybody on Christmas morning, even among that kind of person, the Scrooge-like CEO, there are certain rules. There are certain just obvious truths. There's a saying about layoffs. When you gotta make cuts, you gotta make them fast, you gotta make them deep, and you gotta make them once. Fire who you need to fire. Make sure you fire enough the first time, because you don't want to do it again. Because when people are threatened by layoffs, they don't really want to work at your company anymore. You tank morale and the work suffers. This is something that has been observed. It's a story as old as time. Anyone in any industry can tell you. It just makes sense. So what is Asha Sharma doing announcing 1,600 more layoffs over the next year? What is the point of that? It's unhinged. If you're gonna be evil, you should at least be smart about it. But this right here, it is anything but smart. And that's why I really do feel like this is the single greatest indication that Xbox is... it's cooked. It's cooked, man. They've completely lost it. They do not know how to run this company, and none of these decisions are going to work out well for them. We've now got this dying animal that's running completely on adrenaline. We know it's gonna die, and we're all just kind of waiting for it to happen. And you know who else knows it's gonna happen? Sony. Sony knows it's gonna happen. Nintendo is over there doing their own thing. They're not really competitors for Sony. Microsoft was Sony's competitor. And look at that. Microsoft is finally out of the race. The console... I'm going to announce it right here, everybody. Y'all listening? I know I'm announcing the obvious. The writing's been on the wall for a while, but whatever. I still want to say it. The console war is over. It's completely over. And obviously, Sony won the console war. But here's the thing though, Microsoft, they weren't the only losers of this console war. I wouldn't even call Xbox the biggest loser of the console war. The biggest losers of the console war? Yeah, it's us. When Sony felt that they had a competitor in Microsoft, they had to at least pretend that they cared at all about their audience. They had to pretend that they wanted to make us all happy. But let me tell you something. With Xbox out of the race, that's all out the window. Whether it was Xbox or PlayStation, the vast majority of customers purchased a box so that they could play third-party games. Exclusives can certainly be important, but when you're just looking at the raw numbers, the industry is made up primarily of these big third parties. This generation has proved that Sony doesn't really need to, make games for its PlayStation. As long as people are buying the PlayStation to play the third parties, then they make all the money in the world and they're good. They themselves have closed down a bunch of studios, even some legacy studios. They put a bunch of their other studios on these live service games that they didn't even really specialize in, wasted years and years and years of talent on these games, didn't even end up producing anything good, then ended up canceling most of them. So we thought, oh, okay, so maybe things are turning around. But no, they recently had an investors meeting and they laid out their plan for the brand, and literally none of it was anything that any of us wanted to hear. We're doing more live service games. We are dedicating ourselves to squeezing even more money out of every customer, and we are going hard on AI, baby. And what can I even say about the whole physical thing that hasn't already been said? Yeah, they're not producing physical games for the PlayStation 6 starting in 2028. Physical games are just no more, and because Sony won the console war, they were the only platform worth anything anymore, the only platform actually selling a significant number of games. PC is already all digital, Xbox is dying, and there are even rumors that they're gonna go all digital next generation too. So pretty much the entire thing rests pretty much exclusively on Sony. So if they do away with physical games, then that's it. Physical games are done away with, at least in the non-Nintendo third-party disc printing space, which of course means that Sony is going to have even more. No, they're gonna have godlike control over the market. They can manipulate prices on the storefront however they want. They're basically ushering in the all-digital dystopia that we have been fearing for so long now. This future where you own nothing and you like it. Sony is like, yep, the time is now. Sorry, the time to actually own games, it's just kind of done. And of course, it kind of goes without saying, this is the same Sony who poked fun at Xbox by doing this whole entire video about you as the owner, you own your game and you should be able to sell it used and you should be able to trade it with friends. Yeah, again, they were only that way because they had competition. And now they don't have competition, so they got no one to impress anymore. Certainly not us, because they know that we're gonna buy the darn box no matter what. With all accountability gone, Sony is finally showing their true colors. And it's really obvious how they feel about us and this whole situation. When you look at how they announced the whole physical thing, they announced that they were going all digital and that they were closing down the PS3 and Vita stores, and that over 500 titles were being permanently delisted from their TV and movie catalog practically in the same breath. And at least in the case of the PS3 and Vita stores, as we've seen with other digital storefront closures, if you bought the title, you can still re-download it, at least for the foreseeable future. But those TV shows and movies? No. It does not matter if you purchased those. Your right to view that content has been permanently revoked. Forever. And with Xbox, if the indicator, for me personally, the real red flag was the firing a bunch of people and then announcing ahead of time that more people would be fired, that was the real red flag that something was really seriously, deeply wrong. On the Sony side, I feel like I am getting just as red of a flag in this decision to just announce that they're going completely digital right after giving us a concrete example of how digital ownership is is not real ownership, and your access to these games can be revoked at any time for any reason, and then them not doing anything to assuage our fears. Not a single thing. No silver lining whatsoever. No damage control. This is simply the way that it's gonna be, and you're going to deal with it. Future Arlo chiming in for a moment. This video wasn't meant to be comprehensive, so I didn't go into a ton of specific details. And yet I feel compelled to point out that just in the time we've been working on this video, the industry has seen several examples of what an all-digital future looks like. Both Sony and Microsoft have seen massive outages, leaving customers unable to access the services and, yes, games they paid for. And it's come to light that for bizarre legal reasons, in Japan, boxed copies of GTA 6 will contain codes that expire after 170 days. And not even 170 days after purchase, but 170 days after the release of the game. This is the future Sony and Microsoft want, and it's the future we are hurtling toward. Back to you, Pastor Arlo. So this is what I mean when I say that, in a way, this feels like just any old day in the game industry, but at the same time, personally, I feel like there's just been such a big shift. This really is something else. Within a very short span of time, Xbox has given us very clear signs that they are really and truly dying, and Sony has taken off the mask and stepped fully into their position as our new evil overlords. It's the scene in the movie where Xbox is on the ground, like it's clear that the final blow has been dealt. It's only a matter of time now, and then Sony, you know, they're like turn to face the crowd like, some things are going to change around here. Sony has won the war, so, I mean, if anything, this means that they're probably gonna start doing even better than they've ever done before. But in a way, to me, it kind of just feels like they're dying as well, you know? Like, again, Xbox will probably never die completely, especially when they own these IPs. But the Xbox that once was, and maybe even the Xbox that could have been, in a sane and reasonable world, that Xbox is now dead. And similarly, the Sony that we once knew, or maybe the Sony that we thought we knew, or again, the Sony that could have been, that's dead too. And it's all part of a greater industry problem. But then, of course, it is also just a symptom of a greater industry problem, which itself is just a symptom of a greater world problem. I don't like any of it, but I also can't deny that it all makes perfect sense. It all does. We've been building to this point for a long time now. The war has been won, but at what cost? The lands have been ravaged, and now we're all here to pick up the pieces and use them to build a monument to our new king. The console war is over, and we are the losers. No, the future does not look particularly bright. In fact, it looks downright bleak for both Sony and Microsoft. But there is one thing to keep in mind. One very bright silver lining. Peanut butter exists. Peanut butter exists. It's peanut butter. I just love peanut butter so much. And it's just like right there. It's just like always there. Like just we live in a timeline where there is peanut butter. You can just go to the store and buy it. You can buy as much as you want. You can buy as much as you want. It's just like, what a blessing. What a blessing to live in a world with peanut butter. Come to Papa. Come to Papa. I'm going to eat peanut butter till I puke.